Okay, I am here with Joe Scarborough at the National Republican Leadership Conference here in the East. Joe,
are we going to talk about the Red Sox again?
Oh, I never get sick of talking about the Red Sox.
It's going to be a good year this year.
Well, I'm still recovering from the shock of last year. I mean, it was nice.
That was, you know what?
It was
04 was magic, and it'll always be the most magic season. But I'll tell you what, last year, a very close second. Very close second because nobody saw it coming. We shouldn't have won the American League Divisional Series. We shouldn't have won the championship series. It was unbelievable.
It was, but it'll never replace the parade with my young sons at the time.
Yeah.
That was special.
Oh,
but
I know.
Now back to less important things.
Much less.
Here at the Northeastern Republican Leadership Conference, here on day 2, what will you be doing here on day 2? I understand you're in a panel.
We're in a panel, yep. First in the nation panel, and we're going to be talking about strategies on, obviously, what Republicans need to do. Everybody's talking about it right now, what Republicans need to do to build a lasting majority. Think about it. I was talking to Jennifer Horn last night, who, of course, is the chairwoman of the party, and we've had this back and forth. We win in 2004, not just the Red Sox, but the Republicans.
Yep.
Remember Karl Rove, and everybody was talking about this permanent majority. 2 years later, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. 2 years later, it's Barack Obama. 2 years later, New Hampshire. And I was here this time in 2010 in New Hampshire, and they were talking about trying to win back the state legislature. Well, they did, and we won Congress back. And then 2 years later, they lose it. And now it looks like 2 years later, we've got a really good chance of winning not only in New Hampshire, but also in the Senate, holding the House. And so the question is, how do you not only win this year, but how do you build a lasting majority? Because the electorate's getting more volatile than ever.
One of the things that I've noticed there's a little bit of undercurrent here, but I've noticed both in Massachusetts and other places, is the question of, oh, is this person conservative enough? Is this person not conservative enough? I've always believed in a primary, you'd go for the person you want the best, but once a primary is over, it's not the person who's elected is not running against Ronald Reagan, they're running against the Democrat, and you have to get the best possible choice.
Our focus over the past 3 years has been subtraction. It really has. We've been focusing on who is righteous enough. We've had a lot of bunch of self-righteous sort of televangelist type Republicans going around saying, no, he's not conservative enough for the party, she's not conservative enough for the party. That's not how you win. I mean, you win by doing exactly what you're talking about. Let them fight it out in the primary process, and then when you go to the general election, do everything you can to help the Republican Party win in the general election, if you believe Republicans can govern better than Democrats. Now, the fights, though, the intramural fights, though, have been so savage that it's been hard to unite when we got to the fall. I think maybe we learned our lesson this past fall when the government shut down, and I think you're starting to see both sides work together a little bit more.
Well, we had a very big success in Florida 13 that I must admit I did not expect it at all. When I saw the political stories, when I saw the day before on the show, I figured, all right, this is going to win, this is going to be the narrative. Caught everybody by surprise. How surprised were the people at the Morning Joe table?
I don't know if they were that surprised because we had, I've got obviously a lot of contacts in Florida and been talking to my former chief of staff who's supervisor of election down there, and I was looking at the vote totals before the early voting, and Republicans were we were ahead on early voting, despite the fact nobody thought we would be. And day of the election, she just wasn't getting enough votes. Alex Sink wasn't getting enough votes to catch up. That, though, is a huge victory. Democrats can say what they want to say. Steve Israel, good guy, but Steve can say what he wants to say. He was in a bad position the morning after. But I remember from the day I got into Congress 20 years ago, people saying, when Bill Young leaves this seat, it'll go Democratic. That has been the assumption for good reason. Barack Obama won it in 2008 by 5 points. He won it in 2012, I think by 5 points, 5 or 6 points. And we won. It was a devastating blow for Democrats.
Now, what if you had...
And by the way, we won against one of the best Democratic candidates in the state of Florida. We had a guy who a lot of Republicans were quietly in Washington calling me going, you know, talking about he was not an A-flight candidate. He was not their top choice, but we won anyway, and I think we won in large part because we maybe see the beginning of a wave election.
Now, if there was one piece of advice you could give the GOP, other than obviously you've given a lot of it in your book, what's the advice would you give? Now, of course, I'm extremely conservative myself. I would, and I'm practically Tea Party.
Yeah.
What advice would you give both quote-unquote establishment Republicans and Tea Party Republicans going into the primaries and beyond?
We've got to keep the big prize in mind. We haven't done that in the past. Harry Reid should have been retired many years ago. He shouldn't be a senator, let alone a Senate majority leader. We've got to focus on sending Harry Reid back to the minority, and we've got to focus on Hillary in 2016. And if we think we're going to do that by running 30-second commercials attacking other Republicans viciously, we're out of our mind. We have got to build a working majority and build that lasting majority we thought we were going to get back in 2004. Now, the way we do it state by state by state by state is different than how we elect presidents. How we do it state by state, you do have to get the Senate candidate that matches the state. Somebody that's going to win in Northwest Florida is not going to win in Boston, Massachusetts. But then when you get into the presidential campaign, what my entire book is about, we've talked about it before, I'll say it again, people don't get the message, we have to nominate a conservative, ideological conservative who's moderate temperamentally, who knows how to connect our conservative beliefs like Reagan did, like Thatcher did, to middle-class voters and explain we're not the party of the 47%, that we're the party of the 100%, that what we believe applies just as much to an 18-year-old Latino voter in South Central LA as a 65-year-old hedge fund broker in Greenwich, Connecticut. And if we have candidates that actually believe that actually get that, and that convey that to the people out there voting, I think we can win.
And you mentioned your book, the title, please plug it. There was a line of people. I'd actually approached Joe to interview him earlier, but there were so many people in line to get the book signed and to get the picture with you, figured I'd better just back off and let people get it.
Oh, that's right. The right path.
And that's
the right path, and again, it's talking about what we need to do as a party to move forward. I could have written an ideological screed and talked about what I believed in and why I believe in what I believed in. It would have made a lot of people happy, but you know what? At this point, after losing 5 out of the last 6 presidential races in the popular vote, it's about winning. It's about winning, and conservatives, it's about winning by getting a conservative candidate that knows how to apply the lessons of Reagan and Thatcher, the shopkeeper's daughter, to middle-class Americans who feel more and more disconnected from us.
Joe Scarborough, 6 to 9 a.m. every day on MSNBC. The MSNBC show worth watching, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much for your time.